seeds of the magical hood. A broken bar. Ian and Marcus, two best friends since kindergarten, sat on the curb of Elm Street, sharing a pack of stale gum and swapping tales of their latest adventures. The late afternoon sun painted the neighborhood with a warm, golden glow, casting long shadows that danced on the pavement. Their laughter echoed down the quiet street, punctuating the rhythmic chirp of the distant crickets. "You know what's messed up?" Ian mused, his eyes wandering to the old, run-down house at the end of the block. It had been abandoned for as long as they could remember, a silent sentinel to the secrets of the past. "That place still gives me the creeps." Marcus snickered. "You're just scared of Mrs. Jenkins' ghost." "Mrs. Jenkins isn't dead," Ian said, rolling his eyes. "But something about that house. It's like it's hiding something." Their conversation was interrupted by the sudden rustling of leaves from the house's overgrown yard. Both boys froze, their eyes locked on the spot where the sound had come from. The rustling grew louder, and a figure emerged from the dense foliage. A girl, about their age, with wild hair and a torn dress. She looked around frantically, as if lost, and then her gaze fell upon them. "Hey, you guys," she panted, her voice a mix of fear and excitement. "You've got to help me. There's something weird going on in there." Ian and Marcus exchanged skeptical glances. "You're not trying to pull a prank on us, are you?" Ian asked, half-heartedly. The girl's eyes widened, and she stepped closer, her desperation palpable. "I'm not kidding. I saw something." Her words trailed off as a cold wind whipped down the street, sending a shiver down their spines. The air grew tense, and the shadows grew darker, hinting at something sinister lurking just beyond the veil of reality. The girl looked over her shoulder, and the rustling grew louder, closer. "Please," she begged, "you've got to believe me." The boys, feeling a strange mix of curiosity and dread, slowly rose to their feet. Marcus whispered, "Okay, let's check it out." They followed her through the gate, the rusted hinges squeaking in protest. The house loomed before them, its windows like vacant eyes staring into the gathering dusk. As they approached, a peculiar sensation washed over them, a tingling in their fingertips that grew stronger with every step. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the scent of decay. They moved cautiously, their flashlights cutting through the darkness, revealing a maze of discarded furniture and peeling wallpaper. The girl led them to the basement door, which stood ajar, the darkness within beckoning like a gaping mouth. "It's down there," she whispered, her eyes reflecting the flickering light. "What I saw, it was magic." Ian took a deep breath, trying to still his racing heart. "What kind of magic?" "The bad kind," she said, her voice trembling, "and it's looking for me." The basement stairs creaked beneath their weight as they descended into the unknown, the shadows seeming to come alive around them. The tingling grew stronger, almost painful now, and Ian's heart thudded in his chest like a drum. At the bottom of the stairs, they found themselves in a dimly lit room, filled with cobwebs and the faint scent of something unpleasant. The girl pointed to a corner, where a strange, glowing object lay on the floor. It pulsed with an eerie light, casting an otherworldly hue on the surrounding dust. Marcus reached out to touch it, but Ian grabbed his wrist. "What if it's dangerous?" The girl's eyes were wide with wonder. "It's not just dangerous," she murmured. "It's alive." The object grew brighter, and a low, guttural growl filled the room. The shadows grew denser, coalescing into twisted shapes that seemed to reach for them. Marcus jerked his hand back as if burned. "What is it?" Ian whispered, his voice barely audible over the hammering of his heart. "It's a spirit stone," the girl said, her eyes glued to the pulsating light. "It's supposed to be a rare artifact, capable of summoning things from other worlds." The air grew colder, and the growling intensified. The boys could feel the presence of something malevolent, something that didn't belong in their reality. Marcus swallowed hard. "Maybe we should get out of here." But before they could move, the stone's light grew blinding, and a figure materialized before them, a creature of shadow and rage, with eyes that burned like embers. It was a spirit, and it was angry. The girl took a step back, her hand clutching a talisman around her neck. "I didn't mean to do this," she said, her voice trembling. "I didn't know it would call something like you." The spirit's eyes narrowed, and it turned its wrath upon the trio. "You dare to disturb my slumber?" It trembled, its voice echoing through the basement. "You shall pay for your insolence." Ian and Marcus exchanged a terrified glance. This was no ordinary game of hide-and-seek. This was something far beyond their understanding. The girl spoke up again, her voice stronger now. "We can help you. We won't tell anyone about you. Just let us go." The spirit hovered for a moment, considering her words. Then, with a malicious smile, it spoke. "You shall be my emissaries," it said. "You will do as I bid, and in return, I will spare your lives." The two friends looked at each other, unsure of what to do. They had stumbled into a world of magic and darkness, and they were in way over their heads. "We'll do it," Ian said, his voice steady despite his fear. "What do you want?" The spirit's grin grew wider, revealing a set of sharp, jagged teeth. "Your souls," it whispered, "are bound to me now. You shall seek out others like you and bring them to me. Together, we shall conquer this realm." The girl looked at the boys, her eyes filled with regret. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "I didn't know it would come to this." Marcus clenched his fists. "We won't do it," he said, his voice firm. "We're not going to help you hurt anyone." The spirit's smile disappeared, replaced by a snarl. "You dare to defy me?" As the spirit advanced, the air grew colder still, and the boys could feel their very essence being pulled towards the creature. They were trapped, with no way out and no idea how to fight back. But as the spirit reached out to claim them, the girl stepped forward, the talisman around her neck glowing brighter. "I command you," she said, her voice ringing with power. "Leave them be." The spirit recoiled, its form wavering. For a moment, it seemed to consider her words, then with a final, furious roar, it vanished into the shadows from which it had come. The three of them stood there, panting, as the dust settled. The girl, whose name they hadn't even asked, looked at them with a mix of apology and relief. "Thank you," she said. "You didn't have to stand up for me." Ian and Marcus shared a look of determination. They had just encountered something beyond their wildest nightmares, but they had also found a new ally. And they knew that, together, they had to find a way to put an end to the spirit's plan before it could bring its darkness into their world. Their quiet neighborhood had changed forever, and their friendship was about to be tested in ways they never could have imagined. But as they climbed the stairs, leaving the musty basement behind, they realized that they had also discovered something within themselves, a bravery and a bond that was stronger than any magic or evil spirit. They stepped outside into the cool evening air, the sun now fading memory behind the horizon. The street looked the same, but it wasn't. The shadows held secrets now, and the wind whispered of other worlds just out of reach. "What's your name?" Ian asked the girl as they hurried down the sidewalk, the spirit's ominous words still echoing in their heads. "Luna," she replied, her eyes darting around nervously. "I've been watching you guys from the house for a while now. I knew you were different." Marcus frowned. "How do you know about the magic?" "My mom," Luna said, her voice tight. "She was a witch, or at least, that's what everyone called her, before she passed away." The weight of her words hung heavy in the air, and the boys felt a pang of sympathy. They had their own share of secrets, but nothing quite like this. They decided to go to Ian's house, where they could talk more safely. Inside, they sat around the kitchen table, the light flickering from the single bulb above them. Luna took a deep breath and told them her story of how she had stumbled upon the spirit stone in her mother's things and had been drawn to it by a power she didn't understand. "It's like it called to me," she said, her voice low. "But I had no idea what it was capable of." Ian leaned forward. "So, what do we do now?" Luna's eyes searched their faces, looking for answers they didn't have. "We need to learn more about the stone and the spirit," she said finally. "And we need to find others like you, others with the power to fight back." Marcus nodded. "We can't do this alone." The gravity of their situation settled over them like a thick blanket. They were just kids, after all, caught in a battle between realms that they didn't fully comprehend. But as they sat there, the three of them, a strange sensation grew within them, a warmth that spread from their hearts outward. It was a feeling of unity, of purpose. They were a team now, bound by fate and a common enemy. They decided to keep the spirit stone hidden in Ian's basement, a beacon of both hope and fear. They swore an oath to protect their neighborhood from the malevolent forces that sought to invade it. And as they huddled together, the beginnings of a plan began to form in their minds. They would become guardians of the realms, a secret society of friends who would stand between their world and the darkness that threatened it. They had no idea what lay ahead, but they knew one thing for sure: they were in this together, come what may. The boys exchanged a look of grim resolve, and Luna nodded solemnly. They were no longer just three kids with a wild imagination. They were the chosen ones, the protectors of the innocent, and they would not rest until the spirit was banished back to where it belonged. Their adventure had only just begun, and with each step they took into the shadowy realm of magic, they grew more aware of the stakes. They were the first line of defense against an enemy that sought to tear their world apart, and they would not falter. As the night grew darker, they sat in the quiet of the house, the glow of the spirit stone a constant reminder of the power they now held. They talked into the early hours, sharing stories and theories, strategizing and promising to always have each other's backs. The spirit had underestimated them, thinking them easy prey, but it had awakened something within them, a fierce determination to stand against the tide of evil, and as they looked into each other's eyes, Ian, Marcus, and Luna knew that together, they could face whatever the future held. The next day, they began their quest for knowledge. Luna brought over her mother's dusty, ancient books, filled with spells and incantations that had been passed down through generations. They pored over the pages, their eyes widening at the arcane symbols and cryptic language. They studied the properties of the spirit stone, learning how to harness its power without falling under its sway. Their afternoons were spent in secret meetings, training in the art of magic. Luna taught them simple spells to ward off malevolent spirits and protect their homes. They practiced until their hands cramped and their voices grew hoarse from chanting. And all the while, the spirit stone pulsed in the corner of Ian's basement, a silent sentinel to the power they were amassing. Word began to spread of strange occurrences in the neighborhood, whispers of shadows moving on their own, objects flying through the air, and eerie lights flickering in the night. The townsfolk grew uneasy, but the trio remained vigilant. They knew that the spirit was testing them, probing for weaknesses. One evening, as they were about to wrap up their training, the house trembled. A deep, guttural laugh echoed through the walls, and the spirit stone grew so bright it was almost blinding. The spirit had found them again. They raced downstairs, their hearts pounding in their chests. The spirit loomed in the center of the room, surrounded by a swirling vortex of darkness. Its eyes burned with a new intensity, and it was clear that it had brought reinforcements. "You think you can defy me?" it roared, its voice shaking the very foundations of the house. "You are but children playing with forces beyond your understanding." But Ian, Marcus, and Luna had come a long way since their first encounter. They had learned to channel their fear into power, and now they stood firm, their makeshift talismans at the ready. "We're not going anywhere," Ian shouted back, his voice shaking but steady. "This is our home, and we won't let you take it from us." The spirit howled with rage, and the shadows grew thicker, reaching out to ensnare them. But the three friends held their ground, their spells forming a protective barrier around them. The battle was fierce, the air crackling with energy as they faced off against the spirits. They dodged and parried, using their newfound skills to keep the darkness at bay. Slowly, they pushed the creatures back, their determination unyielding. And then, with a final, desperate effort, they combined their powers and cast a banishing spell. The spirit stone shattered, sending a burst of light that sent the malevolent beings reeling. With a final, anguished scream, the spirit was sucked back into the void from whence it came, and the room grew still. Breathless and exhausted, they stared at the spot where the spirit had been, their hearts racing. They had done it. They had defended their world against the unseen threats that lurked in the shadows. But as they looked into each other's eyes, they knew that this was only the beginning. There would be more battles to fight, more secrets to uncover. They had taken the first step into a world of magic and danger, and there was no turning back. Their friendship, forged in the fires of adversity, had become something more, a bond that would see them through the darkest of days. And as they stood there, basking in the quiet victory, they knew that together, they could face whatever came next. The night outside was calm, the stars twinkling down on the quiet street. But in the hearts of the three friends, a storm was brewing, a storm of adventure, of magic, and of the unbreakable ties that bound them together. Their eyes gleamed with a newfound purpose, and they whispered a promise to each other, a promise to stand as guardians against the forces of evil, to protect the innocent, and to never let their fear control them. Their story was just beginning, and it was one that would be told for generations to come. The tale of the boys in the hood who discovered magic and battled the darkness within. In the days that followed, they honed their skills, growing stronger and more confident in their abilities. They ventured further into the spirit realm, seeking out those who could help them understand the extent of their newfound powers. They encountered friendly spirits who taught them the art of healing and the importance of balance in all things magical. But the whispers of the malevolent spirit they had banished lingered, and they knew it was only a matter of time before it returned, seeking vengeance. The trio grew out more vigilant, their eyes peeled for any sign of its return. They patrolled the streets at night, their flashlights piercing the shadows, their hearts pounding in unison. One fateful evening, as they approached the old house, they heard a strange, mournful melody. It was hauntingly beautiful, a tune that seemed to resonate within their very souls. Luna's eyes grew wide with recognition. "That's it," she murmured. "That's the spirit's call." They raced to the basement, where the shattered remains of the spirit stone lay scattered. The melody grew louder, more insistent, and from the shadows emerged a ghostly apparition, its eyes filled with a fiery hatred. The spirit had returned, and it had brought an army of the damned with it. The house trembled as the ground beneath them shifted, and the walls groaned with the weight of the malevolent force. "We need to be quick," Luna said, her voice steady. "We have to send them all back before it's too late." Marcus nodded, his hand gripping the talisman at his neck. "On three," he said, his eyes meeting Ian's. As one, they began to chant, their voices rising in a crescendo of power. The air grew thick with magic, the very fabric of reality bending to their will. The spirits wailed in protest, their forms flickering as the boys' combined energy pushed against them. But the spirit was not so easily defeated. It grew stronger, feeding off their fear and anger, and the room grew colder, the shadows darker. Ian felt a surge of determination. "We can do this," he shouted over the din. "For our neighborhood, for our families, for each other." And with that, they channeled their love for their home into their spell, and the room was filled with a brilliant light. The spirits screamed in unison as they were wrenched back into the void, their tether to the mortal world severed. The house stilled, the darkness retreating back into the corners from which it had come. They stood in the ruins of the basement, their breaths coming in ragged gasps, their eyes shining with triumph. They had faced the nightmare and come out the other side, stronger and more united than ever before. Their bond had been forged in the crucible of danger, and it would never be broken. They knew that there would be more battles, more trials, but they also knew that they could handle anything thrown their way. They were the guardians of Elm Street, the protectors of the realm, and together, they were unstoppable. The spirit may have been defeated for now, but the adventure was far from over. With each victory, they grew more aware of the vast world of magic that existed just beyond their doorstep. They had tasted the thrill of power, the weight of responsibility, and the sweetness of camaraderie. As they climbed the stairs, leaving the basement and the shadows of their fears behind, they knew that they had been forever changed. They had stepped into the light, and there was no going back. Their journey had just begun, and the world would never be the same again. Word of their exploits began to spread beyond the confines of Elm Street, reaching the ears of those who knew the truth about the spirit realm. They received messages from other guardians, some offering guidance, others warning of the dangers that lay ahead. They studied together, poring over ancient tomes and practicing their spells in secret. Their nights were no longer filled with just games of manhunt and whispered stories of the local legend, Mrs. Jenkins' ghost. They were now warriors in a silent war that raged just beyond the veil of reality. Their skills grew, and so did the challenges they faced. They encountered more powerful spirits, each with its own dark intentions. They battled a vengeful water nymph that had taken a local pond as its domain, and a cunning trickster that had been wreaking havoc in the local playground. Each victory brought new knowledge and a deeper understanding of the balance that maintained the peace between the realms. But it was the night of the blood moon that truly tested their resolve. The sky above was a canvas of deep red, and the air was charged with a palpable tension. They felt the spirit's malice growing stronger, its whispers louder. It had been preparing, waiting for this moment to make its grand return. The trio gathered in Ian's basement, their makeshift fortress, surrounded by the remnants of their battles. They held hands, each feeling the pulse of power that flowed through their bond. They knew this was it, the moment they had been dreading and preparing for. The ground trembled, and the walls began to crack. The spirit emerged from the fissures, its form a twisted mass of shadow and fury. It had evolved, grown stronger in its anger and resentment. "You dare to challenge me again?" it roared, its eyes burning with a rage that could consume them all. But Ian, Marcus, and Luna were no longer just children playing with fire. They were guardians of the realms, Bound by friendship and a sacred oath, they stepped forward, their faces a mask of determination. "We stand together," Ian declared, his voice resonating with a newfound confidence, "and we will not let you harm our home." The spirits sneered, and the battle was joined once more. The basement was a whirlwind of chaos as they clashed, the air crackling with the energy of their spells. Luna's incantations painted the air with shimmering runes, Marcus's talisman blazed with a holy light, and Ian's staff, a simple branch once, now thrummed with the power of the earth. Through the windows, the townsfolk watched the night sky light up with arcs of power, not knowing the true nature of the conflict that played out beneath the blood moon. The spirit grew stronger, feeding on the very essence of fear and anger that it had sown in the hearts of the townsfolk. But the trio had come too far to falter now. They chanted in unison, their spells weaving together into a tapestry of protection and destruction. The spirit's form wavered, and the ground beneath it trembled as the power of their combined wills bore down upon it. Suddenly, a brilliant beam of light shot from the sky, piercing the spirit's shadowy mass. The room was filled with the sound of 1,000 shattering glasses as the spirit let out a final, anguished scream. The light grew brighter still, consuming the creature until there was nothing left but a fading echo of its malevolence. The basement was silent, the dust settling around them. They had done it. They had banished the spirit for good. They embraced, their hearts pounding in their chests, their eyes filled with relief and pride. The town of Elm Street grew to trust them, whispering tales of the brave guardians who had saved them from the unseen horrors of the night. The boys' legend grew, and others began to seek them out, eager to learn the ways of magic and to stand alongside them. They founded an order, the Elm Street Protectors, dedicated to keeping the balance between the mortal and spirit worlds. They taught those who were chosen, those who had the potential to wield the power of the elements and the strength of their hearts. Their battles grew more frequent and the more dangerous, but so too did their skills and their numbers. They patrolled the streets at night, a vigilant force against the shadows that sought to claim their world. Through it all, their friendship remained the cornerstone of their power. They faced each challenge as one, drawing strength from their shared experiences and the unshakable bond that had been forged in the face of adversity. The years rolled by, and the boys grew into men, their faces lined with the scars of battles won and lost. But they never forgot the night they had discovered magic and the pact they had made in the old house on Elm Street. They had become guardians, and it was a title they wore with honor. Their legacy grew, and so did the legend of the boys in the hood who had stumbled upon magic and chose to stand against the darkness. Their story inspired others, and the world of the supernatural grew a little less terrifying, a little more hopeful. Yet, deep within the spirit realm, whispers of their deeds reached the ears of ancient and powerful beings. Some watched with approval, others with a cautious eye. For in every hero's tale, there is the potential for a great fall, and the guardians of Elm Street had drawn the attention of forces that could either uplift them or bring them low. But for now, in the quiet of the night, as the moon cast its soft glow over the sleeping town, Ian, Marcus, and Luna stood tall, ready to face whatever the next chapter might bring. They were the guardians, the protectors, and they would not rest until the realms were safe. Their story continued to unfold, each day bringing new adventures and new challenges. But through it all, they remained steadfast in their resolve, their hearts united by the bond forged in the crucible of fear and the flames of friendship. And as they gazed out over the rooftops of their beloved town, they knew that no matter what lay ahead, they would face it together. For they were more than just three friends with a secret. They were the bulwark against the shadows, the beacon of light in the dark, the guardians of Elm Street. Their nights were now a dance of patrols and wards, a ballet of vigilance and protection. They had grown adept at hiding their true identities, slipping from the mundane into the extraordinary with the ease of shrugging on a cloak. Their friendship had become a bastion, their trust in one another unshakable. But with each victory, the whispers grew louder, the challenges more complex. They began to uncover a web of darkness that stretched far beyond their neighborhood, a conspiracy that threatened to engulf the very fabric of reality. It was a plot that had been weaving itself for centuries, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And that moment was now. The whispers grew to a crescendos, and the signs were clearer. The time had come for them to step out of the shadows and into the wider world of magic. They had to leave the comfort of their street, the safety of their homes, and venture into the unknown. They packed their bags, their hearts heavy with the weight of their mission. Each item they chose held a piece of home, a talisman of comfort against the cold embrace of the outside world. They knew that what lay ahead would test them in ways they couldn't even begin to imagine. But as they set off into the night, the warmth of their friendship a beacon in the encroaching dark, they felt ready. For they had faced the malevolence in their own backyard and had emerged stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. Their journey would take them to the far corners of the spirit realm, to ancient libraries and hidden temples, to the very heart of the battle between light and shadow. They would meet allies and enemies, each with their own stories to tell, their own battles to fight, and through it all, they would learn that the true magic lay not in the spells they cast or the creatures they encountered, but in the love and trust that bound them together. For in the end, it was not the power of the elements or the might of ancient artifacts that would see them through. It was the strength of their hearts and the unbreakable bond they shared. Their story was one of growth, of sacrifice, and of the indomitable human spirit. As they faced the trials that awaited them, they knew that they were not just fighting for their town, but for all the worlds that lay within reach of the shadows. And together, they would stand as a testament to the fact that even in the darkest of times, light could always be found if only you knew where to look. Their steps echoed through the night, a rhythmic declaration of their intent. They were the guardians of Elm Street, and they would not rest until the balance was restored. Their journey was just beginning, but they were ready. For Ian, Marcus, and Luna, the night had become their day, the shadows their playground. They had been chosen, and they had accepted their fate. They were the heroes their town needed, and they would not falter in their duty. The world was vast and filled with wonder, but it was also fraught with danger. Yet, as they disappeared into the night, they knew that no matter where their path led, they would always find their way back to each other. For in the end, it was not the battles they won or the spirits they banished that defined them. It was the love they shared and the promise they had made. Their story was one of friendship, of magic, and of the courage to stand against the tide of darkness. And as the moon set and the stars winked out one by one, they stepped into the next chapter of their lives, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The road was long, and the night was deep, but they walked it together, their hearts filled with hope and their souls alight with the promise of dawn. They were the guardians, the protectors, the boys in the hood who had discovered magic and had chosen to wield it for good. And as they disappeared into the shadows, the town of Elm Street slept safe in the knowledge that they were being watched over by a force more powerful than any evil could conceive. Their travels took them far from the familiar cobblestone streets and the whispering trees of their youth. They encountered beings of light and darkness, each with their own agendas and secrets. Some offered aid, while others sought to use their power for their own ends. Yet through every trial, every temptation, they remained steadfast in their friendship and their duty. The whispers grew into a cacophony as they approached the heart of the spirit realm. The very air thrummed with the anticipation of battle, and the stakes grew higher with each step they took. The friends knew that the fate of worlds rested upon their shoulders, but they did not waver. Instead, they drew strength from each other, their bond a beacon in the chaos that surrounded them. In a hidden glade, beneath the canopy of leaves that shimmered with the light of 1,000 S,